Welcome to the Two-Way Street podcast with Rick Harris of Work Boot Consulting and Rob Berry of St. Louis Bath and Renovations. Our aim is to bridge the gap between contractors and consumers. Remember, communication is always a two-way street.
Hi, this is Rob with St. Louis Bath and Renovation, and this is Rick Harris with Work Boot Consulting. We are the Two-Way Street podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? And I have not, Rick and I always talk before we start to record, but I haven't mentioned to Rick until just about 8 seconds ago what my topic would be. And he gives me topics and we talk about those things. But are you doing what you should be as a contractor and as a consumer? Talk about base level stuff here that just anybody can relate to. Rick, what's your first take on when I say, are we doing what we should be doing as a contractor, or if you've got your consumer hat on?
Well, interesting. So yeah, this is an interesting conversation. What I'm doing here is trying to spread it out until I can figure out what I'm going to say. From my perspective as a consumer, there are a couple things come to mind. Like, am I doing the maintenance that I'm supposed to be doing on my home? Am I being realistic about what I want to do in my home? If I'm thinking about renovating, do I have a clear idea? Am I realistic about the budget that I have? Am I realistic about the timelines? Have I discussed it with my partner? Is this something I really want to do? From a contractor's perspective, are you doing your due diligence when it comes to qualifying your clients, communicating to the world at large, what kind of contract you are, what kind of work you do, to the people that do reach out to you, how are you communicating with them? There's a laundry list of things in there, but I want to hear from you about what your take is on it.
I like everything you just said.
Okay.
I was not thinking about that. And I think those are fantastic roads we could go down in this conversation. Whether it's a 10-minute podcast or a half hour, it won't matter to me. And hopefully our listeners will get some value out of it. But, with my contractor hat firmly on, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Did I, when I shook Mr. or Mrs. Smith's hand, am I following through with what I said that I would do? When I told them it was going to be a $5,000 project, is it a $5,000 project or is it $10 million now? Am I bringing my A game when I show up? Am I showing up with appropriate clothes for the job? Am I showing up with appropriate tools for the job? Am I delivering on what I said I would do? And I know we often like the restaurant analogies. I love McDonald's analogies because everybody can relate. When you pull up to the drive-thru and you order a number one, but then you get around to pay, you pay for the number one, but then they give you a number 7.5.
Right.
Every one of us is going to go, well, wait a minute. You have clearly renegotiated this contract. I want the number one that I paid for, not the 7.5. So think about that. Are we, and hopefully this is striking a chord with somebody. And I think that we know when things go wrong and how to self-correct, but are we doing it?
Okay, so it's interesting you said something. So I remember watching in Lethal Weapon 3 when Joe Pesci was in there and he was in the back seat. I think his name was Bernie Getz, his character's name. And they went through the drive-thru and that was his thing. He's like, don't leave, don't pull out of the drive-thru. Let me check the bag first. So
right,
I totally get that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, right, exactly. So you mentioned something. Your first statement was, how does a $5,000 job become $1 million job? So how does, because I know that happens and I've seen it. I've never experienced it, but I want to hear how that could happen.
A $5,000 job should never be $1 million job unless new information came to light for the consumer or for the contractor. And I would assume that 90% of that time, it should be the contractor that should be in the driver's seat of that once the jobs began. Because you've already talked to them about ABC and XYZ, and you've set expectations, we've set a price, we've set a start date, and you've begun all these other things. The moment that a $5,000 job becomes any more expensive in my book, it's not $5,001 when I leave. It's $5,000 because I've already figured everything that I need. If the job becomes more expensive, I stop, take pictures and send it to the customer, or I go grab them from the other room because everybody's home these days. Everybody's working from home, which I'm still getting used to because we were, 10 years ago, we were the only people in the house quite often because people were working. But it's the moment that job changes speeds, changes gears, gets more expensive, I want to tell the customers about it. Am I a Boy Scout? Am I perfect at that? No. But 99.9% of the time I do, because I'm the guy that wants to know why the job just got more expensive. Why did my number one get changed to number 7.5? Or why did it get more expensive from the time that that you told me the price to the time I'm going to pay for it? I don't like change like that. And I'm a handshake guy, although I still have contracts and agreements, and we stick by those because it's important.
Right.
But I'm a firm believer in do what you say and say what you're going to do.
Okay, so a couple of things came to mind as you were talking. So, is it when a $5,000 when a job goes, the scope increases? Is it the scope? Is it price? Is it discovery? Is it what? What are those things that happen? So, is it on the contractor to prepare the individual that they're quoting for, to let them know that there may be unforeseen circumstances? Once we pull that wall down, this may happen.
Right.
Is it a contractor's thought, because I know that happens, that they're not sure what they should be charging, and either intentionally or unintentionally they go in with a lower price, hoping and wishing that it's going to be okay, and then we'll hit them with the extras as need be, and put that in there in the contract that unforeseen circumstances. Well, the person that's receiving the quote doesn't understand what unforeseen circumstances are. And I know in the commercial world that there are companies that will go through, and these are large scopes of work, very large, where you have estimating departments doing them. They will go through a scope of work for a contractor, do the takeoff, knowing that maybe somebody's missed something, which could be fire stopped on the risers. They put it in there. They don't include the fire stops in it, and knowing that the inspector will come in and say, where are the fire stops? It's like, well, look, it's not in the scope of work. To me, that's an unethical way of doing things. So anyhow, is it complacency, or is it ignorance when something goes that way, or dishonesty, or is it intentional?
I don't think we have enough time to discuss all of that.
Okay.
If it was to your last point that you make, is it dishonesty? Is it ignorance? Is it complacency? It's all of the above, and probably more that we're not thinking of. If the scope of the job changes, you as a contractor need to tell the consumer. And if Mr. and Mrs. Consumer, if you guys change the scope of the job, your honest contractor needs to know that, because he's got to account for the yield sign or the stop sign or the change of direction that you just gave them, because how we approach things at the foundational level absolutely affects how the roof goes on when we top off the job, however we're finishing out, whether it's bathroom, any job. You get the idea.
Yeah.
If how we start those dominoes falling, because when we do, they continue on. But if we put a hand in there and stop them and start them in a different direction or whatever, I'm kind of being unclear, but you get the idea.
No. I do. So what would be a really simple example of how of things that you've seen happen, and how do you deal with changes in scope?
I'll give you an ideal situation. So we focus on bathroom renovations, but we're a full service home remodeling contractor. So if you end up needing your master suite done, so you want something done with the master bedroom at the same time that we do the bathroom, we can address that. But let's say it just started off as the master bathroom, and you said we agreed that, hey, the price was going to be $25,000, and I'm unless I've forgotten to or whatever happens, I'm going to give you that caveat. Hey, my price doesn't change unless things change. I say that every job. Typically, the things that will change would be if there was water damage under the shower pan or the bathtub or whatever from the kids splashing in there. That's about the only thing that changes, unless there's a mechanical issue that I can't tie back into the new fixtures that you've picked out and purchased. You know, I've shown you a stack of pretty things that we're going to put into the bathroom, and you expect them to be in these locations where we said that they would be. They will absolutely go there because we've measured. But if there's water damage, or if you've said, you know what, I don't really like that idea of the 4-foot shower, I need a 5-foot shower, or whatever. Change like that would mean I definitely didn't do my job at the beginning if you want to switch to a 5-foot shower. But crazier things have happened. If the scope of my work doesn't change, my price does not change. I don't want to be on the receiving end of that news, and I don't give that type of news to my customers unless my hand is forced by a request from them, or if the mechanicals in this instance, if those things have changed, mechanical or structural.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So that's exactly how I looked at things when I was doing, similar work to you. Is if we always had a contingency in there. So what would happen is, post demo, we would stop. There was, I forget the exact verbiage that we used, but post demo, we would stop, do an inspection, go through, and it's like, okay, this is what we found. So it's discovery. This is kind of what we're in.
Yeah, that's what we call it, demo and discovery. On a job that we have to demo first, because I'm unsure, or the client's unsure about what is needed or what they can have, we'll do demo and discovery and do it exactly like that. Open it up. Right. Here's what we got.
Yeah, exactly, which makes sense. And during demo and discovery, post demo and then during discovery, this is where you can't nickel and dime people over stuff. So if you see something and your plan was to redo the electrical, and there's 3 outlets and there's one that's buried in behind the wall, and it's not going to take you more than 15, 20, 30 minutes to do that type of thing, do it, document it, and then zero it out. So the client knows that, hey, look, this is not a big deal. In the grand scheme of things, it only took us an extra 15 minutes. So document it and show them. However, I think a lot of contractors open up the wall and they think it's, regular, 110, 120 wiring, and they get down and there's a foot below, and I know you've seen this. Oh, look, we have knob and tube. Somebody's put lipstick on a pig to make it look like there. This is where contractors have to have confidence in the way they do things in the process, to say, hey, time out. This is not cool. This is not. Position it with your client to say, hey, remember we talked about this. Remember we had, you're looking through the contract, not trying to be a wiener about this, but this is way beyond what we had anticipated. How would you like to deal with this? And if you keep those lines of communication open and honest all the way through, when something like that happens, the consumer says, no, I don't like this, but yes, this, you told me about it, to anticipate it. And on the flip side as well, I know there are contractors who find something, bite down on their bottom lip, and they say, well, I'll just suck this up. Well, that's not how you should do it. If it's a little thing, give it away. But if it's something larger, where you take something apart and you see that there's dry rot or termite damage or something, don't eat that. You had no idea that could be there. So yeah, I think it's about, like we talked about. I mean, this is a two-way street podcast, and it's keeping those lines of communication open. Expectations, managing expectations. Remember, we talked about this, and slowing it down. Okay, there's a whole lot there, but
I think that was a great breakdown, and you've got to you don't want to talk too much, but you've got to meet expectations that you've set. If you've done
Hmm.
your job correctly,
Yep.
and unless somebody's blackmailing you to do the job, you you need to do what you say that you would do. If you want to continue being in business, if you're a thief, well, one, this is not the podcast for you. Kindly
No,
tune out. But
that's right.
we've got to meet those expectations because there's not one of us that knows everything. And
No.
shoot, if I did, it would go to my head. I say that often. The get in there, and I do little check-ins. Since everybody's home, I do little check-ins every day, especially the things that were key to what the customer said they wanted. Why did they raise their hand in the first place? Rob, we need a new shower, but it's got to be more safe for my wife or for my husband or for our kids. Hey, remember we talked about we were going to put grab bars in there. Here's the solid blocking that I told you that we would put between the studs that allows me to not have to guess where that wood is or drill 15 extra holes in your brand new shower that you paid for.
Right.
Here I can go a foot either way and I can grab that material with the new bolts that we're putting in. Whatever that is for
Hmm.
little old Mrs. Smith that she why she called in the first place, highlight those things. And it's kind of like a soft close with them.
Mm.
I'm closing every day. So by the time that the last day of the job rolls around, they almost already have the check written out. And it's not for anything other than you don't want to do, you don't want to have to cover 15 things at the end of your job because
Hmm.
now when you've wrapped up the tools and you're ready to go, it's going to take you 2 hours to get out of the door if you've done your job right. For everything else except checking in with the things that were important to them. But I like to bring them in, gives you an opportunity to show what you said you would do, gives you an
Yeah.
opportunity to show that buried electrical work that no one knew about, and we see that kind of stuff often. Uh, we show them that stuff, gives you an opportunity to document. Hey, that damage, we found some damage that we want to show you that wasn't, we didn't notice that before, we didn't cause that, whatever. It gives you an opportunity to be a better contractor for your consumer, and it also gives you an opportunity to protect your rear end so that because there's some dishonest consumers out there as well, just like there's dishonest contractors. This gives you an opportunity to protect yourself from doing free work or getting sued or somewhere in between. So
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about the negative stuff. I want to focus on being a good contractor and being a good consumer. Have open dialogue. Why we started
Hmm.
this podcast in the first place. Do what you say and say what you're going to do. Follow through with that stuff. And to make people happy for the service end of things, show them when you can, hold their hand and show them, here's that thing we talked about on this day. And hey, tomorrow, that other thing we talked about, we're going to be addressing that. And here's how we're going to be doing it. Because when you show up on time and you do things on time and you do them in a logical way, by the end of that job, it's par for the course. They can see it. You're painting that picture for
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I believe in everything that you just talked about, and it was all amazing stuff. So a lot of times, there's two different scenarios here. So say you're contracting and going in to look at somebody's washroom. They have a drop ceiling over the bathtub. I've never understood why builders put drop ceilings over the bathtub. I don't get it. 99% of the time, there is nothing in there other than insulation. Zero. Some people want it out, some people want it in there, some people really don't care. But what every homeowner will tell you, for the most part, I would say 95% of every homeowner that I met that said something, oh, there's going to be something in there. Like, no, there isn't. Take it from me based on my experience. There is a possibility there may be a vent pipe or something in there, but it's usually nothing. It's not structural in any way whatsoever. Sometimes you have to prove to your client that by opening up a small exploration hole that there is nothing in there. See, there's really nothing. The other thing that can happen is in kitchens, you always have those bulkheads that go above the cabinets. Usually there's something in there. Not in the entire bulkhead, but at some point you're going to find something in there. Plumbing pipe, exhaust pipe, usually electrical. Because every tradesperson loves to see, oh, we're putting a bulkhead in. Great. I just clip my wires to the joist. So what I'm saying is, if you are not an experienced contractor, you may have to put up little holes in the ceiling or the bulkheads to see if there is something in there. So you have to prepare your clients that, if I'm going to come over, if we want this down, these are the things that we may have to do to assure you that there's nothing in there. It's better to do
To
it
tell
that
your clients to tell your clients what you don't know.
right. You don't know. I don't know.
Here's what I know. Here's the list. Here's
Yeah.
what you asked me to do. Here's the things that I don't know, and here's the potential for what that could cause. Here's what I know right in the beginning.
Right. So kitchen cabinets, easy fix for that. You do freeze board above it with crown molding, and you've got everything's fine. If you still want that stuff, those things in there, or you're into moving a lot of stuff around, and it can become quite expensive. So this is where doing your due diligence and slowing the heck down in your process. Don't just go in there randomly, look around, in, out, 5, 10 minutes, and come up with an estimate for something. You have to do your due diligence. If don't just take the word of the contractor that this is the way things are. I mean, if you're really concerned, I mean, bring in it. If you're really concerned, um, bring in an engineer, a structural engineer to have a look at something to give you that report. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then it was interesting too when we talked about managing expectations. Would it make sense to have somebody with a legal eye, like a paralegal, to review your contract on both sides, as the consumer and as the contractor? Would that make sense?
Perfect sense. You need to know what agreement you are about to enter into, and what are the ramifications if it goes well and if it goes bad.
Right. Okay. All right. A whole lot there. And I love the fact that you come to these discussions with me, and some of the times we know what we're going to talk about, but some of the times we don't. And I think if you're listening to this, this is where you have to consider, these are candid conversations based on, experience and knowledge that I've gained over the years. The same with Rob. The experience and knowledge that you gained over the years comes from these. This is what comes out in these discussions, is what I'm awkwardly trying to say. So if you're a contractor, surround yourself with other people that think and work the same way that you do. Have those conversations. There's nothing wrong with getting together with the other contractors in your area and saying, can we have a discussion about the way you do things? Can I have a look at your contract and you do mine? And the same thing with homeowners. Find other contractors that have done work for your friends and what their experience is. It is not 100% guarantee that you're going to have the same experience, because it could be a different crew, it could be whatever. But do your due diligence, slow the process down if you're a contractor and if you're a consumer. Slow the heck down. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. We've talked about those things on a previous podcast, and there's definitely going to be some common threads throughout this, because good contractors want to do good work. Good consumers want to pay for what they get, and you've got to set those expectations, and you've got to be honest.
Yep.
Good contractor, you're honest. Tell people what you don't know.
Yep.
Stop. We all know what you know because you said it. Tell people what you don't know.
Yep.
Consumers, be honest about your timing. Be honest about your budget. Shoot, I've been on a job. I think it's been one where we showed up to repair some things, and the client, when we got there, wouldn't let us use the restroom.
No.
I was very perturbed by that, because when you've got people working over at your house, where are they going to go? And be selfish. That crew's going to get done a lot sooner if they're able to use the restroom. This was not like a 3-month job where we should have had a Johnny on the spot there, a porta potty, to be able to take care of myself and the crew. But
Yep.
man, a good contractor appreciates a good, honest consumer, and we all know that every consumer appreciates a good contractor. I think it's time for everybody to take another step towards the other, and with humility and grace, approaching the other person and treating them like they would want to be treated. Am I telling you that I'm a Boy Scout? No. Am I telling you that I'm perfect? No. But I learn every day, and all the things that Rick just mentioned, experience. How do we get that experience? Through successes, some of that, but most of that we're talking about was through small failures or huge failures or somewhere in between. We all learn in life more through failures than we did successes. The pain of staying the same was greater than the pain of change, right? So
Absolutely.
you guys know what we're talking about. Take a step towards that, towards being better for your client and being better for your contractor, and treat that other person like you want to be treated. And I promise you, it will pay dividends, whether that's a check that was paid on time or 15 awesome referrals from that one client. And we all have those clients, don't we? But let's just treat that other person like they want to be treated, like you would want to be treated, rather, and it will pay dividends. You're sowing the right seeds. That's what we're talking about today.
100%. This is great, Rob. I always appreciate you. I always learn whenever I have a conversation with you, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment on things you'd like to hear about, things that you heard. If you agreed, disagreed, whatever. We're big boys. You won't hurt our feelings. Let's talk about it. Find that comment section, send that over to us, and we will respond. Hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for joining us.
See ya. Thanks, guys.
To learn more about Rick, go to his website, workbootconsulting.com. And to learn more about Rob, go to his website, stlbr.com. Until next time, work on bridging that gap. Remember, it's always a two-way street.